she probably helped change my diapers. I don't remember that. But she, I think, sort of took over as my surrogate mom at times when I needed her. She was always there to give me advice and suggestions, and she was a great deal of fun growing up. Having her, she did a lot of things for me. She gave me some really good advice when I was in high school, and for the younger people here, what few there are, it was, if you want to really do well in school and have a great vocabulary, read everything that Charles Dickens ever wrote. So I took her to word, and I got to medical school and even graduated, so it's good. I thought I'd just mention some of the things that she did for me growing up. When I was 8, she graduated from college, then she went off to New York City and worked in Greenwich Village as an editor. And my highlight of my 10th year, she invited me to visit her in Greenwich Village. And I guess she thought she'd just sort of, take me on a little tour of the city and do a couple of things. She said, "So what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to do the Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty, and a flea circus." She pulled it off. So it was the highlight of my 10th year. And later on, she and Frank outdid themselves again in New York City. They took me to the best restaurant in New York City, Mount Leone's in the basement, for just a wonderful meal and then a show. And I'm always grateful for Frank and for Pat for doing that for me. When I got to college, she was always helpful. She wasn't a great communicator. I remember when she was in Nigeria, we didn't hear from her for a year, and we started contacting the State Department to see if she was still there. But she eventually got back to us, and we found out everything was going pretty well, except Missy had a little problem, but that's another story. She sent me just these wonderful things from overseas. When she was in Germany, I told her that I was having some trouble with my German and getting C's and D's, and so she sent me a subscription to Stern, which is a magazine from Germany, and that's a big help. I ended up with A's in German, and passed my graduate German exam when I was in graduate school, and much thanks to that, I think. Also, I was having a little trouble with French at one time, and she sent me a subscription to Du Monde. So, she always helpful in that way. She was a great deal of fun. When she ended up leaving New York City, she came to work with my father for a couple of years in his office. And during that time, I got to really spend some time with her. We went out and used to go horseback riding on weekends and do a lot of fun things. That's when she gave me the advice for Charles Dickens. Oh gosh, there's so many things happened, but she eventually, helped me get off to choose a college. I chose Duke, where she'd gone, and that was where I had a little trouble with my German. So, she helped me get through that, and ended up eventually getting to another college, Colgate, where I had a little better time. But I don't blame her for that. She loved Duke and thought it was a great place. And in graduate school, she sort of helped me whenever I needed. She was there for advice, and it was a wonderful experience, and I really feel grateful that I had the opportunity to grow up with an extra mom. So that's about all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I welcome Uncle Pete, or Pete, her brother.
Thank you. That damn police service.
It's still around.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm Pete, middle child. Somewhere I have. Yeah, I thought about this. I started putting some thoughts together about Pat, I don't know, a number of weeks before when Ella asked me to, maybe I'd say a few words, which I'm delighted to do. And it kind of started to look like a biography or something, you know. I sat down, I'd write, sit down and write, nothing came of it. Finally, after a few weeks, I took out what's left is what I have to say. I have a portrait of Pat, childhood, blonde hair, long Shirley Temple curls, a beautiful child. And if there is such a thing, she led an idyllic childhood. That may have changed when I arrived. She never said anything to that effect. In my experience, Pat had opinions on most topics and no hesitancy whatever in sharing them. As a young lady, when she faced the prospect of having her teeth fixed, would any of us know Pat without the gap in her smile? She told her folks she wore glasses, and by God, she wasn't going to wear braces too. I can almost hear that expression. One early memory I have is a trip to the movies with my big sister. At that time, it would have been Patsy. 1941. The movie was Swamp Water. It starred Walter Brennan, Ann Baxter, and Walter Houston. If you're wondering, I did look those up. I was 6, Pat was 13. The swamp got scary. I started screaming. There was no consoling me. We left halfway through the show. Since then, Pat and I have seen literally hundreds of movies together. I have no recollection of the swamp water consequences, like no bruises, no scars, nothing like that. But I can promise you I never again screamed or otherwise caused her to miss the last reel of the movie. The war years must have been pretty tough for Pat. When Father decided to go off to war, he was all in. Sell the house, go to war. Turns out he was needed, I think desperately, in Battle Creek, Michigan, and later in Western Springs, Illinois. I mean, why else would you race off if you weren't desperately needed? For my mother, it was a disaster. One day, her husband was a prominent doctor. The next day, her husband was a captain in the Army. I might say a lowly captain in the Army. For me, the war was an adventure. For my brother Andy, who was an infant, it was war? What war? So, of course, I'm talking about World War II. For Pat, the teenager leaving the comfort of friends in Atlantic City, the war years had to be something else entirely. No doubt, too, she would have been tuned into my mother's serious unhappiness. But we all got through that. Father mustered out, was back to Atlantic City. We arrived in Margaret, actually. Father started his practice anew. I entered the 5th grade. Pat finished high school in Western Springs. Next up for Pat was Duke. Truly, they were wonderful years for her. She was a good student, took pleasure in learning, generally enjoyed the opportunity, I think, to be on her own, unencumbered by family dynamics. I can recall tales of her finessing dorm rules. Miss Curfew, catch me if you can. Upon graduation, she took an editing job in New York. My brother already referred to that. She roomed with 2 other women, fine arrangement for the outset of her career until one morning she went into the kitchen and discovered a rat as big as a cat eating a fresh loaf of bread. To hear Pat tell the story, the rat's attitude was unnerving. Pat was the intruder. The roommate found nothing extraordinary about that. After all, it's New York. Packing in record time, Pat said she was out of the building before the rat got the breadcrumbs brushed off its face. About this time, she met a man who was to become her first husband. The Atlantic City wedding was splendid. I got to dress up in a morning suit, striped pants, cutaway, tails, the works. Wow. And I thought Pat didn't know me. I love a costume party. But this didn't last. Almost before the ink was dry on my rental suit, that marriage ended. Pat returned to Atlantic City, worked in Father's office, gathered herself. Energy, enthusiasm, joie de vivre. That was Pat. Did not take her long to get back on track. She returned to editing, this time with the State Department, and moved to D.C. She married Frank, became a Foreign Service partner, started a family. For Mary Lee and I, much was happening as well. I had to finish a tour of duty in the Army. Fortunately, we were between wars. I had to finish college. I started a career. I started a family. Mother died, which was hard on all of us. My father remarried. We all hoped very happily. That was unproven. In sum, except for home leave, Pat and I, our families did not see much of another for a fairly long period of time. Though often invited, we didn't visit them in Germany, nor in Baden, nor Sao Paulo, not even in Rio, for heaven's sake. Mary Lee had kind of lost her appetite for flying, particularly with small children. It was after they returned to D.C. that we began building our close family ties. Thanksgiving was always at Pat's. I arranged to have Friday off after Thanksgiving, the busiest travel day of the year. Our goal was to leave Cherry Hill sometime around midday, because on Thanksgiving, traffic gets lighter as the day progresses. Somehow in 30 years or so that we made this trek, we never accomplished a timely departure. Still, when we arrived at 31st Place in Chevy Chase or Bradley Boulevard or Jennifer Street or later at Westchester at 4 or 5 o'clock or later, we were greeted with the same joyful enthusiasm. Miraculously, the turkey would arrive in gastronomic perfection. Pat was a wonderful host. Sometimes the holiday feast would include a friend from the book club, one or another of the girls' main squeezes at the time, a neighbor whose Thanksgiving plans had fallen through, State Department chums. No more difficult than putting another leaf or two in the dining room table. After the feast, the holiday visit proceeded predictably. On a Friday, trip to Chinatown for dim sum, then a visit to a museum or special exhibit or other D.C. happening. All of us were movie buffs, and notwithstanding the swamp water fiasco, the holiday always featured a movie that we would have set up ahead of time and saved for the occasion. To avoid Sunday traffic, we departed Saturday, but first, breakfast, Philadelphia scrapple that we would have brought with us, blueberry pancakes, sometimes waffles. Nobody's going to leave Pat's hungry, that was for sure. While Thanksgiving was the set-in-stone annual visit, there'd be other holidays in D.C. 4th of July, Easter, always a great meal, some requisite event, one time a picnic at Harper's Fair, another time a trip to Monticello. When we visited the Hendler Cabin at China Lake in Maine, the feast was lobster, fresh corn. The excursion was to Bar Harbor, Booth Bay, Arcadia National Park, or some historic village in between. No sitting on the deck with a cocktail and enjoying the sunrise and the sunset over the lake. A visit with Pat was not going to happen without some scheduled new and intellectually engaging event. Besides movies, everyone in the family shared a love of reading. For many years, Pat belonged to a book club. In time, it faded away, as book clubs do. people get older, people move away, people get less mobile. Meanwhile, up the road, Mary Lee and I had joined, well, weaseled our way into our son's book club. And more recently, our other son, Andy, who lives in D.C., joined that book club, and he suggested Aunt Pat that she join. The answer was by all means. So it turned out to be a wonderful 5 years for all of us. Ostensibly, we met once a month. The actual schedule was more like 6 or 8 weeks. Our sumptuous repast Saturday evening, that is at our place, was pizza from Domino's or Papa John's. The event was more like a drive to the other host's house, which might be an hour away. One member of our book club was our age, loved chatting with Pat on our trips. And as you might expect, everyone in the club enjoyed seeing Pat and hearing what she had to say about the book or some adventure or misadventure of her life. She delighted in being there. Upon returning to from our meeting, Pat got the guest room, Andy got the couch with no complaints. When I think of Pat, I think of energy, enthusiasm, joie de vivre. Also, I think of love of family. Her girls, pardon me. Her girls, Ella and Missy, certainly her mother, and her brothers and their families. We had wonderful times together.
I'd like to open the floor to other testimonials. Anybody who wants to say something in fond memory of Pat. Please, Holly.
Sorry, I'm stuck. I can't top that. I'm Holly Worthington. I worked with Pat in real estate for a long time, and I have lots of real estate Pat stories, but I won't tell them all. When I think of Pat, I think of someone that's just kind of like this, rootin' tootin', determined. Pat, I think crisis of confidence is not a word I would ever use for Pat Hammer. Pat was quite determined. I think she was fiercely independent, way before her time. I think she was tenacious. These are all things that make a great real estate agent. Kind. She was a woman of steel, even-keeled. Everyone knows her great gap-toothed smile. It was just something that was wonderful to see and have around. Filled with energy, strength, love for her daughters. She talked about them all the time. It's true. And she loved dancing with her daughters. She brought them to our holiday party and they tore it up.
That was the best.
All the time. She was also supportive and an advocate for other women. And just basically interested in everything. A great, open, curious, smart mind. And just smart. That's what stitches. But she goes, no, I'll drive myself. And we really had to block the hallway to get her to take a ride to the hospital, which she did. She didn't want to interrupt the fun for everyone else. That's just how Pat was. Let me see. She was on the Professional Standards Committee for WDCAR, Washington D.C. Association of Realtors. The name of that committee has changed, but can't you just see her being the warden for justice in the realtor community? I mean, she really was quite indignant, and her temper would flare when someone did something that was dishonest or wrong or not fair. And she really pursued that for her clients too. Really just a total advocate, really wanting them to be treated in the right way. I really think she had an activist temperament, really always in pursuit of justice on a transaction, and as I said, with a little bit of a temper. I admired her for that, and so did her colleagues, actually. She was really well loved in the office. She was a home stager extraordinaire. Back in those days, we didn't call it home staging, but positioning a property to be put on the market and to look at its best was a novel idea then. Here, now, everyone does that, but back then, most people didn't do that. So it wasn't just bring in a couple towels, it was really make it look like a showpiece. And I understand that she spent a lot of time with Lou Forders in the back, going to look at designer show houses, the before and after, and getting ideas. So just a lot of camaraderie. She was featured in an article in the Post before I started managing her as an agent. Not that I was really, you don't manage agents, you hope they stay and like you. That's kind of how it works. So she was featured in an article as being an expert on selling houses where violent crimes had occurred. And I did not know that when she came. I didn't know that when she came to my office. But apparently there's a Washington Post article that I hadn't seen, and I'm really glad I didn't know that. But she never got in any kind of criminal trouble, so that it didn't. It wasn't part of her business. Most of all, she was just a total professional realtor, really hardworking, very smart, and she just always did the right thing for others. And in a business where you may be able to get away with not doing the right thing for others, I never ever wondered once whether Pat had done the right thing. And she just really had integrity and kindness and a curious mind to learn how to do things even better. Just a really fantastic realtor. She also influenced others in the office to be that way and to be held to a higher standard. But really, for me, it was just, when I think of Pat, all I can think of is that great smile. I just think that great gap-tooth smile and that confidence to be who she was and how she was. And I think it's a loss to the industry that she stopped practicing when she did. I know that people in our office will always miss her. That's all I've got for you.
Does anybody else have something to say? Is there anybody else that would like to say something about that? This is our first friend in Washington from 1969.
And they're totally unprepared remarks, but I have to say something wonderful about her friends and her wonderful daughters, who are my daughters. We were next door neighbors during one of the most fiery times in Washington. There was the civil rights movement, there was the women's movement, there was the Vietnam War, there was the body count on TV every night. There was something going on all the time. And Pat, I was a resident at Children's Hospital who had just trained in child psychiatry and was in psychoanalytic training. And I could say anything to Pat, and Pat could say anything to me else. And we would just have these 5-minute conversations that were like deep, you know. And we neither of us bought into any of the garbage about women can't do something. We didn't even know what they were talking about. And when the time came for us to sell our house, because we were noticing that our children were walking sideways up the staircase, and we had thought we'd stay there forever. But we said, if they're walking sideways now, what in the world is going to happen when they're teenagers, you know? Although we loved the house, we loved the neighborhood, we loved the neighbors. And Melissa and Eleanor and Cecily would lie out on the front lawn in their bathing suits, pretending that they were on the beach. And when the baby sister was born, much to my husband's parents' dismay and somewhat embarrassment, Melissa and Eleanor and Cecily and Wendell had taken pots from the kitchen and wooden spoons and walked through the neighborhood banging on the pots and singing, "The babies come out. The babies come out, the babies come out, the babies come out, the babies come out." And so these conservative parents were like, mortified. I thought it was hilarious because they wanted to let everybody know. The pregnancy was over and the baby had come out. The baby who was called Newey and is still called Noodle, you know, even though she just had a baby. At any rate, when we sold our house, I said to Pat, I am not going to straighten up this house every single weekend and gather up all these toys and things and so forth on the subject of staging. And so Pat said, no, the thing to do is you want the people to feel that they want to live there. So we cleared off the dining room table, polished the top, put some daffodils on the table. There were these beautiful Fortuny curtains that I had made, and for the same fabric on the chairs in the dining room. And we put Beethoven on the stereo, and put a lamb roast in the oven. And Tony took the children and took them to the museum. The first man who came in the house bought the house. And we were like, yes! So staging, as you say, is not a thing of today. It's a thing of yesterday that has reappeared. You just had to know what you were doing. In closing, I'd just say that when Father said this morning, it's the memories that will keep us going. There's no doubt about that. Happy, happy memories, happy parties, happy conversations. It was always a happy time. Frank taught me how to prune roses and understand why you don't let the roses just die, but they're thirsty. And so, you know, he and I would be out there pruning roses. Pat and I had the deepest conversations in the shortest period of time ever known to man, but for a psychoanalyst, hell. You know, because most people want to stay up on the surface, you know, they don't want to look down into the water. It's too scary. Although a shark might come up from underneath and bite you. So she understood that, and so we could talk. I will miss her, but I will always have the memories. And I will keep these two daughters of mine close to my heart.
Anyone else? Well, I suppose it's me then. And I promise not to be long. But we have a performance, so I prepared something. My mother, Pat, her example was a lesson in what to do and what not to do. For example, don't smoke. Look where you're going, you might fall and wind up in the hospital. And invest wisely. But anyway, on the other hand, she had many positive characteristics and examples for us all. As many of you know, Pat could be maddeningly opinionated. Yes, she did insist upon what she wanted, but often her strongest words came out when she perceived injustice, unfairness, or untruth, as Holly said. And underlying these strong feelings was the altruistic belief in the innate goodness of people. I remember that in her real estate years, she would often be in the habit of dropping off documents after dark in some of the more risky areas of the city for violent crime. And when I said something, she said, well, I said, you know, Mom, with a certain look, and she would say, no. She said, you're just being silly. I just walk confidently with my head up and I'm always fine. Her bent towards truth and justice led her to volunteering as a grand jurist for the D.C. Supreme Court after her retirement, and other things. Pat's example spotlighted a certain resiliency and other qualities as well that I haven't seen in most people. She was a symbol of grace, generosity, and courage. For a period through the Iona House, she ran errands and food to a lady living in Friendship Terrace and did similar for one of her best friends, Heather. Both had late-stage emphysema, and she did this even as she herself was in stage 3 COPD, facing the same. I remember her never passing a homeless woman without fishing bills out of her wallet, because women have it so much harder than men in these circumstances and in those shelters, she would say. She was upping her donations to various organizations, even as her retirement savings were dwindling. She was a symbol of perseverance many times. Through 5 physical therapy stays, she wanted to say no and rebel. I don't want to do it anymore. And most times, she didn't understand even why she was in physical therapy. But she did it anyway because, well, we all pushed her on because she wanted to do what we wanted her to do, and she trusted us. And it got her quite far. She was impressively resilient. Although 40% of COPD patients don't survive ICU after a year, when she was in it, she survived that. We went to arena stage, dinners, lunches out, and when she was in a transport chair, would rickshaw her down the street to get to a movie hurriedly or to lunch. And family holiday parties for several years, she attended them. By January of this year, she was actually in the rarest 2% of survivors with COPD. She outlived her pulmonologist, who was younger and seemingly in great shape, by 4 years. And in later years, nobody was as good at living in the moment as Pat was, right? Those of you that know. She held on to her dignity as no one else. Finally, Pat was fun to be around. I will never forget the look on her face when I told her, you know what? Let's go. Let's go back to Brazil with the Christian Children's Fund, study tour, and see her sponsored child. And we had a terrific experience there. I will never forget that she went camping at the Maryland shore with me 3 times in a dome tent on the ground in her 60s. One time we excitedly watched from an old splintered picnic table, the finale of Twin Peaks. We were both peakies. Maybe you remember that show. On a blurry, battery-operated black and white TV, our pate, cheese, crackers, and wine in front of us, swatting at the bugs of the night. I will never forget our intense love of movies that we shared, and our habit of Siskel and Ebert-style post-movie analysis sessions over sandwiches at Bowie Mongers and Friendship Heights, or how efficiently she could dissect a lobster in a manner befitting the sister of a surgeon on numerous family vacations in Maine. And I'll always remember how, on a cruise to the Caribbean in 2011, a diver emerged onto our glass-bottomed boat with a live conch from its shell, horrified the kids by pulling it out, slicing it, dousing it with lemon, and Mom put up her hand and for the first sample, "Can I have a piece?" Mom was a consummate Washingtonian, living in the city for over 47 years, and in the weeks following Pat's passing, as I would sluice through downtown D.C., through Tenleytown, Friendship Heights, and Georgetown, I would glance over to the places that we knew, and would suddenly see us walking along, or going in and out of places we used to go over the many years. I would see her there, if only for a moment. And with this thought, to close, I invite the incomparable Stephen Cupo, frequent performer at Maggie's Cabaret, held here in this room at St. Margaret's 3-4 times a year. And I'm so gratified to have him here today. If you've not been here, you should really see Maggie's Cabaret. He'll be performing. I'll be singing you.
Thank you, Ellie. Beverly and I want to dedicate this to Pat. Cathedral bells were tolling, and our hearts sang on. Was it the spell of Paris, or the April dawn? heart of mine and races all day through. In that small cafe, the park across the way, the children's carousel, the chestnut trees, the wishing well. I'll be seeing you in every lovely summer's day, in everything that's light and gay. I'll always think of you that way. I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is new, I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you. Small cafe, the park across the way, the children's carousel, the chestnut trees, the wishing well. I'll be seeing you in every lovely summer's day, in everything that's light and gay. I'll always think of you that way. I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is new, I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you.
Great. Thank you. We'll be bringing out food, so please stick around. All these paintings were done by Pat's mother. They have a very artistic family. There's art in the middle, too, from the family. And I'm going to be setting up a terrific slideshow here in a moment. So have more refreshments. We'll be bringing things out. And please enjoy each other and the exhibits. Thank you.